Hi, I'm Carl Stabe of Domino Connection, and today we have Jason Fischer with us today, and I'm so excited because he's a master of internal talk. I talk about an arch nemesis, which is that internal negative dialogue, and that's something I want to explore, and especially as an entrepreneur, we really have to be understanding of that self-dialogue so we can have a better connection with ourselves, and that makes it easier for the people around us. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, sure. So I saw you spoke at TEDx in San Antonio, and I loved your talk, and I reached out, and you said yes. So I'm excited to talk with this topic
Me
with
too.
you.
Me
Yeah.
too.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in therapy, and then we'll kind of dive into the entrepreneurial side.
Well, real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on it, I was actually volunteering at a hotline, and I was in another career altogether. I was in Chinese medicine. I was an acupuncturist, and I just found that counseling itself resonated with me on such a deep level that I quickly reasoned that I could spend the rest of my life doing something that every time I left it, I just had this sense of fulfillment, this really deep sense of fulfillment. And so, yeah, I changed my career path, and the rest is history.
Cool, cool. So tell us a little bit about why internal dialogue is so important, and what it does to how it affects our relationships.
Well, what could be more important than happiness, first of all, right?
True.
And I would say that our happiness, what that really is, and we seek happiness in all sorts of ways. We seek it through trying to make more money or change our career or live or get married or get divorced or have kids or whatnot, right? But ultimately, happiness stems from the quality of what I call our internal friendship, which is what you're talking about, this relationship we have with ourselves. And just like a relationship with another person is primarily carried out through communication, the relationship we have with ourselves is also built or destroyed by the nature of that communication as well.
Yeah. And so, how do you get started on making that stronger?
Well, first and foremost, you want to start being cognizant of what's going on. So, aware of your thoughts, aware of that internal dialogue that's occurring. And that dialogue, for most of us, starts out imitating a parent-child dialogue. Because the things that we're saying to ourselves are usually some variety of permutation of what our parents used to tell us, right?
So Freud wasn't that far off then.
No, of course not. He was a bright guy. He was a bright guy. So growing up, we heard a lot of times what we should be doing, what we're doing wrong, what's not good enough, how we're not, we could be getting better grades. You shouldn't be seeing that boy, or you shouldn't be seeing that girl. All this sort of these doubts, these concerns, these worries, these disappointments from parents, and we carry that language with us into adulthood. So when we have these thoughts, what we can start to recognize, hey, that's kind of my mom's voice, not mine. It seems like my own, but it's my mom's, or it's my dad's, or my uncle's, or my teacher's, or my siblings, right? And just like when we have children of our own, if we ever do, we can make a conscious decision to parent our children in a way different than we ourselves were parented, because we're like, hey, I don't want to do it the same way. I want to do it a little bit different. So we're capable of making a conscious choice, and oftentimes do, almost always. We almost always make a conscious choice to do at least something different. We can make that same conscious choice when it comes to changing our internal dialogue. I'm going to choose to communicate to myself in a different way.
Yeah.
So what the real key is to transform a parent-child relationship, right, where the one person is the one who knows best and the other one is the one who's doing things wrong, and out of love, I'm going to teach you what's right, okay, into a friendship instead. A relationship between two selves that is based on what I call giving permission, but a full embrace of who the other person is. Our best friends are those who judge us the least, who say, I don't care. You're my friend because you're my friend. I like you as you are.
Yeah.
And as you change, I will like that too.
Yeah.
So it's starting to cultivate that internal friendship. As we do that, we become happier. We become more skilled in our internal and external relationships.
And it reminds me of your talk and the language and the words that we choose for example, need versus want, or, talk a little bit about that, like what language we choose and how we can use different words to, alter our perspective a little bit.
Well, since most people don't know what my particular talk was about at TEDx San Antonio, it was about the word need and how so many of us are trained since growing up, since our childhood, to think in terms of need, what we need to be doing, what we, need to be saying, how we need to be different, this sense of obligation that we imbue our lives with, right? We wake up in the morning and immediately start thinking, what do I need to do today? And then we have this long list, especially in business, especially in the business world, where yoking ourselves to this idea. I need to call this person. I need to get this email. I need to, take care of these expenses. And when we do that, what actually happens is a sense of resistance, all right, rises up in us. And it becomes unenjoyable, uninspiring. We actually demotivate ourselves by thinking and speaking in terms of what we need to do, how we need to be. And when we tell it to other people, maybe if you're the owner or running a business, you tell people what they need to do all the time, thinking this is really important. It has to get done. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to phrase it like, we need to do this. All right. The problem with that is you're actually emotionally creating resistance in another person if you're saying it to them, in yourself if you're saying it to yourself. And with that resistance, it becomes harder or less interesting, less desirable to do that thing that presumably you want to be doing. So then it becomes this understanding of the distinction between that which we think we need, there are no actual needs, to what we want. Because doing what we want is inspiring, it's motivating. We want freedom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That which is, when we're free, we're happy. Animals in the wild, animals who are free, okay, don't experience depression, don't experience anxiety. Only animals in captivity do. Why? Because that lack of freedom. Mm-hmm. But we do it to ourselves. We imprison ourselves with this idea that we're not free. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this.
I love that.
And then we're just saddled by this like loveless and joyless existence, chasing some place where we can finally arrive and be happy instead of being content and happy now.
I want people to hear that again. We imprison ourselves when we put these rules that restrict our freedom. And we're doing that when we have the right to choose whatever we want to choose.
Right. We want to recognize, ideally, two things. One, that we want to recognize what we want to be doing. What is it that we genuinely want, okay? And if you want to build a strong internal friendship and experience all the happiness that comes from that, there's really two means to do it. First is allowing yourself to do what you want, all right? If you say, well, I need to go to work, because if I don't go to work, I'm going to get fired, all right? So I need to go to work. But that makes work seem like a chore. It seems like something that that's an onerous task, okay? The reality is you don't have to go to work. There are plenty of people who don't go to work where you work, right?
Amen to that, yes.
You do not need to. So what's true? If you don't want to get fired, you want to go to work. And it might seem like a subtle distinction, but if you can recognize the truth that you want to go to work because you don't want to get fired, going to work now won't seem as bad. You're like, actually, you know what? I want to. This is my choice. I do have the freedom to quit. I do have the freedom to allow myself to get fired. I do have the freedom to find a job that I would enjoy more, right? Mm-hmm. I do have the freedom to go back to school. I'm allowed to. So building an internal friendship, a healthy relationship with yourself, okay, comes from allowing yourself, when I say giving permission to yourself to do what you want, so that's one. Second one is not do what you don't want, all right? And this is so important because whenever you fail to do something you want, okay, mm-hmm. or force yourself to do something you don't want, the result is always resentment of some kind. And resentment can be like a real parasite, internal parasite.
It festers.
It festers, yes. And it can especially interfere with relationships with other people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If somebody you're in a relationship with, for instance, tells you have to do something, like a boss, for instance, okay, if you have a boss or boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, all right, and you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway, you will harbor resentment towards that person for making you do this. They, in your mind, they took your freedom away. Even if you don't translate it into those words cognitively, right? The sense is they must not be on my side.
And that brings us back to that fact where we started, is knowing those thoughts, that you're choosing to think like that, and then saying, okay, do I want to keep thinking like this, or do I want to make a change?
Yes, right. So there's, in Buddhism, there's the concept of the observer mind, that part of your mind that's always cognizant, always aware of what's going on. Like, so paying attention to yourself. So you want to notice whenever you use a term or a phrase that isn't objective or isn't supportive of a healthy relationship. A lot of things we tell ourselves, we would never in a million years consider telling a child, right? Mm-hmm. Something like, I'm never going to be able to do this project. Okay? I'll never be able to complete this project on time. Okay? You would never tell a child or a friend, you'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Or, in romantic relationships, a lot of people think, I'm never going to be able to find the love of my life. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine telling a child, you'll never be able to find the love of your life? No, right? Yeah. Ever. We would never do that.
Yeah.
Why do we tell ourselves that?
We make the mother, father, whatever, brother, sister role even worse than it was.
We make it a toxic relationship. We can have a parent-child relationship, and we do. Internally, there is always going to be a part of a parent and a child. The child being the emotional part of ourselves, and the parent being this intellectual, mental side of ourselves, the more logical, more rational side of ourselves. That relationship does not have to be acrimonious, right? It doesn't have to be toxic. It doesn't have to be judgmental. We can have a really healthy, beautiful parent-child relationship internally that sort of captures the essence of this friendship as well, between two peers that respect one another and support one another.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, maybe it's true. Maybe you won't do well in this project. Maybe you won't meet the love of your life. But hey, there's a lot of things we can do to increase the chances, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Being very objective.
Yeah, and focus on increasing those chances instead of decreasing them.
Yeah, if you think that every communication will either help or harm you, that there is no such thing as a completely non-affecting communication, internal or external, that this will always either help or harm a relationship, all right? Because nothing stays the same. Even if it appears to stay the same, it's always constantly in flux, even minutely, okay? So then, let me consider it. Is this statement likely to be on the help side of things or on the harm side of things?
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times people think that they're being objective or honest with themselves, all right? Meaning like, God, I'm so lazy, all right? They might feel like you're being honest with themselves, but no, that's not truthful. Lazy is a judgment call, right? So it's making a commitment to thinking and speaking with less judgmentality and more objectivity, more truthfulness. Mm-hmm. Right?
And then you can uncover those layers and say, wait a second, I'm not being lazy. Maybe I need a break right now.
Maybe I want a break right now. There are no needs.
Yes, you're right. Maybe it's such a hard thing to give up.
Inspired.
Yes.
Right? Maybe I'm not feeling inspired. Maybe this isn't something I'm all that interested in. Yeah. Right? Maybe I'm not motivated. Maybe this is not motivating me or motivating to me. Right? There's some truth there. And if you can really just sort of support yourself the way you kind of intuitively know how to support a friend, right, or a child, recognize that you deserve that same treatment, that you are in this relationship with yourself and you're with yourself all the time, that relationship can be abysmal or it can be beneficial and supportive, right? Say, well, I'd rather it be a supportive relationship.
Yeah. I did that on purpose, using the word need, so you could then correct me, so the audience could.
It's a bad habit I have. My wife hates it.
So, what's interesting is I'm doing a 30-day connection challenge, right? And the idea is every single day I either try to reach out to somebody, I try to make a connection in some way. And everything that you say, it's even the start of that. Sometimes I use that word need and I say, I need to connect with somebody today. And it
Yeah.
feels like a chore.
Right, right.
And it starts and then the person that is receiving that is probably like, oh, he's not as enthusiastic as I would like. Maybe I won't reply back.
Correct.
Yeah. And so connecting with people, creating that foundation for yourself, then allows you to build connections in a more authentic and probably energizing way than if you use that wrong type of language that puts you down instead of rises you up.
Well, the bottom line is that we have one set of relationship skills that we use with all people because we are who we are. We know how to relate to people the way we know how to relate to people. Some people are amazing at it, some people less so. But we have one set of relationship skills. And the relationship we have internally is no different. Our internal and external relationships tend to mirror one another. All right. So if we do have a negative relationship with ourselves, it's going to be very hard for us to have a superior relationship with other people. But conversely, if we know how to get along with ourselves extraordinarily well, connecting with other people is going to be easy, effortless, natural. And the good news about the fact that internal and external relationships mirror one another is that we can improve either one, our internal relationships or our external relationships, by focusing on either one. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to be very close. They're not going to be identical. So if you're better at interacting with other people than you are with yourself, then focus on interacting extremely well with other people and transferring those skills internally. Because a lot of times we exempt ourselves. It's amazing how many people treat other people more courteously, more supportively than themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it happens the other way around. Some people are a lot kinder to themselves than they are to other people. It's rare. Those people can appear very arrogant and megalomaniacal or something. But
well, I think it's the social training that we all go through as kids. Treat other people well so they like you. And then we get that feedback from other people like, oh, I said something funny, they laughed, I need to do that again. We don't get that internally.
Right, and that is a very good point. That is a very good point. We do navigate a lot of our external relationships, our social interactions, to receive a certain response. Okay? And this is actually counterproductive because nobody really wants to be manipulated. Right? Mm-hmm. So if we can shift our attention from what we receive from other people to instead what we give to other people, right? Then we become powerful in the interaction.
Yeah.
Right? We can't control what we get from another person, but we can always control what we give.
Yeah. Good point.
So if that's what we're focused on, in connecting to others, if we're focused on what we have to give, even if it's just our attention, even if it's just sort of asking them questions and finding out about them, which seems like we're interested in getting, mm-hmm. right? Like you interviewing me is you getting, right? But you're giving, right? You're giving me your attention. You're giving me your level of interest. You're giving me all this sort of stuff, and I'm giving you what I have to give in return. It's a successful interaction because of that. So it's sort of recognizing just how powerful we are in our external relationships and then choosing to be generous towards ourselves in the same way.
Yeah. It's almost like taking those notes really, internally and maybe even in a journal to be able to help process through that. So you can, I know for myself, I had I think a very negative and attacking, internal dialogue. And 3 years ago, I did a no complaining challenge for 30 days. And then I started it really changed how I viewed my internal dialogue. And I started seeing myself attacking and, putting other people down to make myself feel better. And then I would also do that to myself as I started unfolding these layers. And then over time, I'm like, I need to do more of these. And now I try to do a 30-day challenge like every other month.
Right on.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to. And
Yeah.
it's so rewarding. It's such this rewarding experience for you. That's another great thing to keep in mind if you understand this. When you encounter somebody who themselves is really critical, rather than get defensive, understand that, wow, they're probably criticizing themselves just as much. It is the nature of this individual person to criticize, to be stuck in a judgmental mindset, right? And if I can understand that about them, I can understand that there's no need to take anything personally. There's no need for me to get defensive, right? Mm-hmm. No need for me to judge their judging as wrong or bad, okay? I can allow them to be who they are. So as I become flexible to others in that way, I'm exercising my muscles and doing that internally as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's a more embracive relationship. It's a type of relating. It's a whole different type of relating.
And it's interesting because I think we all have portions of that within our personality. I'm a big proponent of talking to people about their personality type, like when I work with clients, because in the end, you have to work from your strengths, I believe. You have to understand your weaknesses, but you have to be able to say, I'm really good at this. Like you said, we interact with people in a certain way, and we have to be able to understand those strengths so then we can use them. And what's really amazing is back in the day, 30 years ago, we had basically our community. Yes, you can pick up the telephone, but you couldn't really it was so much harder to make a connection. Now you can connect with someone in Alaska, you can connect with somebody in Germany. So if you don't connect well with the small community that you're in, you have this wide net of like, hey, this is who I am, and hey, everybody, whoever fits this, personality, who likes my type of personality, come join me and let's work on these ideas together.
You're a great example of that.
Yes. and whenever I reach out to somebody, there is that fear of rejection. But that's that. I try to remember that internal dialogue and say, how would I feel if someone reached out to me and said, hey, you want to talk about how awesome you are? Like, I haven't turned down an interview yet.
Well, you might get some refusals.
Yeah. But no. I haven't. Like when somebody asks me.
No, I understand. Yeah. I'm with you. Right.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, take nothing personally.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever in all of life, in any interaction whatsoever, never take anything personally.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you cultivate that and make that a part of your daily existence?
The term I use is give permission. The entire philosophy that I utilize in counseling is something I created and called the art of giving permission. And what it explains is that every emotional reaction that we have in life, and this is a whole huge topic. I probably can't really briefly summarize in 10 minutes or 5 minutes. But every emotional reaction we have in life, which is to say every experience of emotional suffering that we have in life, is caused not by what it appears to be caused by, not by the event that it seems to be a trigger for us, like traffic or somebody not wanting to do an interview with us, which probably never happens, but or anything, right? Somebody yelling at you or something you think you did wrong. There's always this event, and then there's an emotional reaction that follows the event, and we attribute our emotional reaction to the event because there's such a close connection between the two. Yeah. The reality is, no event actually causes our emotional reaction. If it did, then any person who had the same event happen to them would react the same way. But we already know that everybody reacts differently to the circumstances, right? Not everybody. There's always an exception. There's always somebody who would react to something differently. So the way we, as a person, as an individual, react to something is coming from us, not the event. Some people in traffic go ballistic. Some people are totally fine and they're patient and they're relaxed, right?
Yeah, and what's that difference, that mindset?
The difference is one person is in a mindset of giving permission to reality, their current reality, or it could be their past or their future, right? To be what it is in the moment. Whenever we're not suffering, whenever we're feeling fine, whenever we're feeling okay, whenever we don't mind the way we're feeling, we're in a state of what I call giving permission. Giving permission for everything to be what it is. Even the things we don't like in the world. There are plenty of things in the world that we don't like, but we're in a state of giving them permission to be what they are in the moment. But when an event occurs and we have an emotional reaction, okay, we enter a heightened emotional state. We're suffering. And really what changed more than anything else is we moved from being in a state of giving permission to a state of not giving permission.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we're not giving permission, because we deem that this one thing is not okay by us, which is the judgment call. Yeah. It's a relationship to the reality, right? Yeah. Hey, that is not okay. You, whatever. I'm not going to give an example. All right? That's not okay. And so as long as we're in a state of that's not okay, emotional state, we suffer. And we can transform that suffering by saying, you know what? It is okay, right? You lied to me. You cheated on me. You didn't get this assignment done, when I told you to get it done, right? That's okay. Why is that okay? Because it's already happened, right? It's in the past.
Yeah.
It's too late. Even what I'm telling you now is already in the past by the time you heard it. Nothing is going to change that.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense for me not to give permission to something that's already happened. It's already done. I can't do anything about it to change it. What I can do is change my emotional response to it.
And that it makes me think of the kid factor. You said the emotional side is our kid side. And it makes me think of my own son who's 4 years old. And when he whines, it's his reaction of like not enjoying the moment or not being okay with the moment.
Yeah. He does not know how to give permission. A child is incapable of giving permission. Yeah. Sometimes. Incapable of doing it consciously.
Yeah. And so
we're all capable of doing it unconsciously. Only adults who have the capability of sort of, rethought, recognition, okay, are capable of choosing to do consciously that which we ordinarily do unconsciously.
Yeah.
We're usually unconsciously giving permission most of the time, right? Most of the time we feel okay.
Yeah.
Because we're giving permission to an infinite number of things to be what they are.
Yeah.
But every once in a rare while, something happens and we fail to give permission. That's when we can consciously give permission instead.
And
we can remind ourselves.
Yeah, and it brings up those triggers. Then becomes a path that can lead to depression because you can't hop off and say, you know what, it is okay. And then you go further and further down until all of a sudden you're struggling and you don't know how to get out of it.
Say that one more time.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you say, you know what, I am upset that someone denied me an interview. And then you say, it's probably because I'm not good at interviews. And then I'm not good enough. And then it just keeps on spiraling down. And now you've taken this negative train, and now all of a sudden you hit depression, and then you're kind of stuck. And the faster you can realize that, the faster you can jump off that train and say, I give myself permission that it's okay where I'm at.
Yes, and I give this person permission to not want to be interviewed by me.
Ooh, yes. Yes.
It's okay. It has nothing to do with me. It's who they are. Everything that anyone does, when your son breaks into tears or has a tantrum or yells and screams, that's because of who he is. In that moment, that's the best he can do. In that moment. He doesn't want to be yelling and screaming and upset. He doesn't know how not to be. So this is a really hard thing to maybe recognize, but everyone is at all times doing the very best that they can with what they have. Even if you've seen them do better in the past, in this moment, they're showing you what their best is right now. And if we can recognize that somebody's always doing their best, it becomes really easy to forgive what we see as maybe a shortcoming or an inadequacy, or you name it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So you've given us some amazing things to think about, and we've touched on the idea of happiness, but I always ask this question, and it's important because I think it's kind of the jumping off point for motivation. What is the secret to happiness?
I'll give you 2 words.
Okay.
Giving permission.
I thought we were going to circle back around.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
It does come down to giving permission and understanding just how powerful that is. Because a relationship that is predicated upon giving permission, meaning I give you permission to be who you are because you did not ask to be that way, okay? I give you permission. I'm letting you be who you are. It's okay, all right? That improves our external relationships. If you do that to somebody else, if you really give somebody 100% permission to be who they are, you will be their favorite person. You will have a great relationship with them. And that relationship will grow and evolve. When we give somebody permission to be who they are, that's a very nourishing experience, right? It feels great. People feel better about themselves. When we give somebody permission, we model what that looks like. So they can start giving permission to themselves internally. Mm-hmm. And if they do that, they will become a happier person. Happy people are easy to get along with. They are. They're more happy-go-lucky, right?
Yeah.
Carefree, relaxed, right? They're like, when little things happen, they're like, no big deal. Yeah. All right? So it's giving permission externally to others, helps them give permission internally to themselves. Giving permission internally to ourselves recognizes, I am who I am. If I want to improve in a certain area, I'm allowed. I don't have to, but I'm allowed. It's okay. There doesn't have to be anything wrong with me now to want to improve or to want to grow in a certain area. And now the whole sort of like sense of anxiety and pressure to be different morphs. And it becomes about, I'm allowed if I want. I'm free to if I want. But honestly, I'm allowed to spend the rest of my day locked up in my home playing Xbox. There's no authority in the universe that says I'm not entitled to do that. Yeah. Maybe I'll get evicted eventually, or who knows what. Yeah. But I'm allowed. If that's what I want, I'm allowed. Yeah. But is that what I want? And that's the more important question to have with oneself. What do I really want? Okay, so besides giving permission, okay, because that kind of is a huge thing, understanding what it is you really want on a deep, deep level. First and foremost, as far as the key to happiness, that's key. That's like the starting point. Then you give yourself permission to pursue that want, knowing it's okay. That's right? So there's difference between a surface level want, right? I want a drink. I want, a cigarette. I want to whatever. There's a lot of surface wants that we have. Mm-hmm. But really deep down inside, what is it that I want? And saying, you know what? I'm allowed. I'm allowed to go for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like that. And as entrepreneurs, probably make up a good portion of this audience, you're right. You start there and then say, what do I want? And then be able to lay out steps to make that permission that you need to give yourself even easier and seem like it's possible.
Know that it's possible.
Yeah.
It is definitely possible, right? I mean, assuming.
Yes.
There's really, I'll give you another little quick spiel that I have. In order to achieve success has 3.5 ingredients in my mind, all right? 3.5. You can call it 4, but it was 3.5. The first is vision. A clear vision about what it is you want to create and why you want to create it, right? Not just on a whim, but a real clear vision of what that looks like. What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to build? What am I trying to create? And why? Why is it that I want to, right? So if you have a firm vision, you will be inspired to stay on the course. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people with great vision not achieve success in my life. Clients, because I work with a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs. So a lot of people have great vision, but they are missing the other ingredients. Okay. So vision is key. I've seen other people with the other ingredients lack vision and also not succeed. Mm-hmm. So this is like a mandatory ingredient, a clear vision for what you're trying to build or create. Second ingredient is confidence. Knowing, not just thinking, knowing you can create that vision. Because if you're standing in your own way thinking, yeah, I have this great idea, but I'll never be able to pull it off, you will not be able to succeed. Because no one can no one. It's very rare that somebody can create a great enterprise on their own, completely on their own, right? It's a matter of building partnerships, building relationships, finding investors, inspiring customers or clients, right? Mm-hmm. Getting other people to believe in your vision the way you believe in it. But if you doubt your abilities, how is somebody else going to have more confidence than you? Yeah. They're going to take their cues from you. So vision, knowing what you want. Confidence, knowing you can achieve it. Because, right, it's like if your child was trying to learn how to play soccer or ride a bike, right, or walk for the first time, you'd never be like, you call that walking? Right? No, they would stumble. You'd be like, yeah, way to go. That's amazing. Way to go. That's you're doing a great job. We encourage, we egg on. We know you're going to learn how to walk eventually. And that you stumbling right now is part of that process. Mm-hmm. And so it's having that's really supportive dialogue with ourselves that it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to make it. There's not success and failure. Those are not the options. The only options are success or success not yet.
Good point. That's that wordage again.
If you have the confidence, I've either succeeded or I'm about to or I'm going to. That's it. Those are my only options. That's how much I believe in myself. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't know how to do something, I'm going to find somebody who does. Right? Yeah. I don't have to do it alone. The third one is intelligent action. So it's vision, confidence, and then actually doing the work. But not just doing busy work, doing work that has a high likelihood for translating into what I'm trying to create. Yeah. So with vision, confidence, and action, those three ingredients, those are really the main ingredients of creating success. The only half ingredient is time.
Why half?
The half ingredient. It's like a sprinkling. Don't quit before you're done. So many people do that. They give up.
This is too hard.
Yeah, they tell themselves it's too hard, or I just don't have enough money, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. No, you don't know how to do something. Figure out what the problem is and fix it.
Yeah. Good point. That it kind of leads me to my last question, and why the foundation of everything that we do starts with that internal dialogue, and then taking it externally and start, because you're going to get that feedback from people when you reach out. Like I reached out to you, there's that fear of rejection. There's a fear of I'm too busy right now. But what I've learned is I actually reply back, oh, I understand you're too busy right now, but I'm not giving up. I think your knowledge is too important for my audience not to have. I'll check back with you in a few months. And a lot, like 70-80% of the time, I get a reply back, like a smile or, yeah, okay, sounds good. We'll talk again early next year or something like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So you don't take the first rejection as the end of the story.
Exactly, yeah.
And what a supportive way to be to yourself, right? It's like, okay, I'll just work. That's a workaround. There's no great rush. I can still do something like choose a response to this rejection in a way that keeps the door open, that keeps moving me towards what I want to see happen, instead of growing despondent or self-critical.
Yeah, and my feeling is I'm trying to show confidence of like, you know what, like. One, you compliment them saying they're too good for me to miss out on and my audience to miss out on. And then two, I'm not going away, so eventually they're going to have to say yes. You know what I mean? So
they might yield just to humor you eventually. But you don't want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my hope is to deliver like you deliver you to my audience and do it in such a way that you get more out of this than I do. You know what I
You're
mean?
flattering people, so why would they reject that?
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of leads me to that last part of, what is that first baby step? We've talked about a lot of ideas and we talked about, the 3.5 ingredients. What's that first thing they need to do to like start improving that internal dialogue and making it more likely that they build strong connections out there with people out there in the world?
Well, let's focus on the internal thoughts, all right? Self-awareness. Pay attention to what you're saying, how you're saying it, right? Then recognize that you can make a conscious choice to speak and think differently, all right? And just take the time to consider what might healthy supportive language look like in this case, right? How can I say this differently? Is this judgmental? Is this helping or harming me? This thought, right? I'm fat. I need to go to the gym. Is that thought helping or harming me? Does it make me feel better about myself or worse about myself? Does it inspire me to want to go to the gym or not?
Yeah.
I'm fat. I need to go to the gym. That person stays home and eats a big bowl of Cheetos. Right?
Watching reruns of Saved by the Bell.
And that's not what they want.
Yeah.
Right? But it's coming from that, it's like I'm heavier than I'd like to be and I want to go to the gym. That's true. That could be factually true. I'm heavier than I want to be, not fat, right? And I want to go to the gym, or I want to work out, or I want to do this. I want to be more active. I want to live a healthy lifestyle. I want to live a long time, right?
And that's understanding those goals, like you talked about earlier.
Yes, connecting to the truth about what you want, then giving yourself permission to do what you want or not do what you don't want.
Yes.
It really comes down to that over and over again. So self-awareness first.
Okay, perfect. Man, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Where can they go to your website, Jason?
I do have a website. I'm currently I'm redesigning it right now, but it's www.jasonb as in boy Fischer Fischer.
Okay, great. So we'll send people. I'll link to it at the bottom of the interview as well.
Right on, great. All right.
All right, I'm gonna press stop.